Pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Mr. Knox Dent. Just recently graduated from West Point. Knox, welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk more about it and get after it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always love having goalies from the the armed services. And first of all, before we get started, thank you so much for your commitment and thank you
Thank
for
you.
serving the country. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the support.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk goalie.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the very first time you jumped into goal. You remember that?
Oh yeah. Not necessarily jump in, more of a thrown in there, but I mean, it goes all the way back to middle school. Like probably fifth grade year, right before middle school. Kind of, goalies not showing up, kind of rotating out, just how every kind of youth team does it, and kind of just got thrown in there. I was like, hey, like your turn, try it out, and turned out to be a little bit better than expected. So kind of got stuck in it and just kind of carried on with it since then.
I love it. Now, where did you grow up? Was it like a lacrosse
Yeah.
hotbed, and was there a lot of lacrosse goalie coaching in the area?
I would say not so much. I moved to Denver in elementary school from Texas. So kind of wouldn't say Denver is necessarily a hotbed at the time. Obviously things have changed a lot since then, but moved there and kind of got introduced to the sport by one of my mom's like friends that she had met, and kind of just stuck with it since then, and kind of turned out to be the only sport that I really played up until now, throughout my whole time living and growing up in Colorado. The coaching there was obviously, I was grateful. I had great coaches throughout all of my youth and had the same coaches basically throughout. So I wasn't really wavering there, but lucked out with the coaches I had in terms of Sam Hovey, a great guy, a big name out of Colorado in terms of lacrosse community there. And then kind of just, he kept me going with it, and, did some camps here and there, but most of all my credits due to him. But Denver's come a long way in terms of the lacrosse game, with help of Bill Tierney and DU, obviously. But when I was there, it was definitely still a new and growing sport for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's growing tremendously in Denver, right? I mean, it always helps when you get like a D1 program and then like the greatest lacrosse coach of all time
Yeah.
into that program, right? Like, I mean, that'll really help it and draw a lot of inspiration and popularity in the sport. And yeah, I mean, now we got a lot of D1 goalies and kids coming out of Denver, right?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, the path that Denver has taken over the past couple of years in terms of Colorado, the growth, obviously with the different tournaments down there, and just the knowledge and everything that's been made aware through Denver in terms of just growing the sport through the West has been awesome.
Yeah. So when a lot of kids start playing goalie, Knox, like the shots come at them and it's like, it's like the big time flinch. Like, I don't want anything to do with this, as is the natural human experience, human reaction, right? A projectile
Oh yeah.
comes at you and it's like, I gotta get safe, right? Was that you? And how did you like overcome that particular element of this position?
Yeah, I think, it's weird to say. I think that kind of fear, you get used to it over time, obviously, but I think the only way to really get over it is to see more of it. It's one of those things that you get more comfortable in net, more comfortable in your skills, that, you're not going to be getting hit as much, obviously. But as the game progresses, people get better, shots get harder. I think that's also where your own game progresses. You're seeing a lot more challenging shots and you're finding out more about your game. It's just one of those things that, obviously no one wants to get drilled by the ball. And even when I get in there, sometimes I'm like, I don't want Jacob Moore on my team stepping down from 5 on me and drilling me. But it's one of those things that you just get more comfortable with seeing, and you get more confident in your own game that, maybe you're making stick saves more than you are body saves and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I think that mentality, that fear, it goes out the window on game day. Just one of those things that you're trying to do all you can to win. And it's just, you get super comfortable in there. You kind of find that peace. And if you get hit, hey, so it may hurt a little bit after, but telling you a win will feel a lot better than that will.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can start out using the tennis balls, so that you don't get beat up so much while you're trying to get that fear response out. But that is a good point. It goes away, and it's like anything, like maybe you're super nervous to go take like a test the first time, and then like the second time, like you're not as nervous, and the third time you're not as nervous. Maybe you're super nervous to go talk to that cute girl, and like the first time you do it, it's like, you're super, and then the second time and third time, fourth time, so you build up like a tolerance for this, and the same goes for lacrosse goalie as well. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Like you mentioned, I mean, it definitely doesn't happen overnight. The tennis ball thing was huge for me. Anytime I'd be seeing extra shots and stuff, like when I was younger, I'd always be doing tennis balls and whatnot. And then even at like a younger age, just like even putting on extra padding if you need to,
Mhm.
you know, any of that stuff that'll help you get more confidence, is definitely worthwhile and something that I've seen a lot of people do in the past.
Yeah. So yeah, so overcoming that, that fear response and just like being calm when the shot's coming at you is kind of like step number one. Reps does that. Now, how did you go about then learning, all right, this is how you're going to stand, this is how I'm going to
Yeah.
do an off stick hip save. How did you go about learning making all the saves?
Yeah. I mean, first couple of years I started playing, it was obviously just, I was going out there having fun playing lacrosse in elementary school. And then middle school is when I really got more into tune with the position. I don't know if you're aware, like Bill Pilot's like goalie academy.
Mm-hmm.
Did a couple of those, a bunch of those when I was younger, and that kind of like structured how I would be playing my game. And then that was kind of like the staple of like the transition from just playing lacrosse, having fun, to the actual like, hey, let's be as good as I can be in terms of this position. And that's really when I stuck with goalie and kind of learned a lot of the fundamentals from that academy and a couple of those camps. And that was kind of like the introduction to like my high school career and everything, and that kind of set the foundation that I needed to um, improve my game, understand my game, know what I need to improve on, and that knowledge about the game that camp provided me really kind of set me up for success in terms of what I wanted to do with the position.
Love it. Yeah, I know. I've never been to a Bill Pilot camp. I know a lot of goalies who have. And I mean, in terms of lacrosse camps, he's been doing it probably the longest out of anybody who's in the game
Yeah.
right now. And he goes all over the US and
Mm-hmm.
puts on a very good clinic, a very good camp. So
Mm-hmm.
goalies should definitely check that out.
Yeah, most definitely.
Um, so you mentioned like sort of at a very young age. I don't know what the age was, but at a very young age, you said, let's see how good I can be.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the motivation for you as you were training. um I'm curious, for a young goalie who sort of lacks motivation, a lot of parents ask me like, how do I motivate my goalie? And maybe for you that was very intrinsic, but I don't know, were there other
Mm-hmm.
factors that played into you having that really strong motivation to see how good you could be?
I mean, I think a lot of it just came from the love of the game. I watched so much college lacrosse when I was younger, and I was always just fascinated by the position. One which I get some people may not be, but I was in love with the game from a very early age, and watching all those big time players, big time goalies, no one in particular, just but seeing them all on game day and like perform. I just think it was such a special position. One, because I think there is an added pressure to the position, and I think I love that sense of pressure and like having that kind of impact on game day. So it kind of brought me to really love the position even more. And then, my coaching staff and my parents, my sisters played lacrosse. So like just it was basically like a lacrosse family growing up, and just being able to kind of work with my sisters in the backyard, do all that. And then also the just support from the coaching staff, like kind of even just giving you those little like, hey, like you're doing really well with this, like you should really continue with this position.
Yeah.
Like that added support just really drove me to be like, hey, like yeah, maybe I'm doing really well, like I had a chance to like be really good at this, like let's see how far we can go. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that encouragement is huge for goalies. I always tell, the coaches and the parents, like, you got to go nuts when the
yeah,
goalie makes a save. And I don't even care if it, like, they don't even move and it hits them right in the
I know.
face mask or the shoulder. Like,
Yeah.
it's that like reward that makes it worth it. And then like you want more of that. And all right, I'm gonna put in the hard work. So now like I'm,
Mhm.
not relying on getting hit in the shoulder or the face mask. I'm actually
Yeah.
making the saves, and it's great.
Yeah, especially at
So
a young age, that's
especially
really
at a young
important.
age, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I'm trying to do the math here. Denver won the national championship in 2015.
Okay.
Right? I mean, were you
Yep.
you were in
Yep.
Denver at that time? Where, like,
Yep. In high school. Mhm.
in high school, yeah. So was that a huge, like you mentioned, I watched a lot of college lacrosse. I kind of got really inspired. Were you a big Ryan LaPlante guy?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I loved watching him, and he was very involved with the program 3D in Colorado as well. So he was definitely someone that I looked up to growing up in high school, and just even the sweatpants thing that he had going was awesome seeing. And you definitely saw his impact on the game with other goalies in terms of transition, like the all sweatpants, rolling it up a little bit. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, his sweatpants. So back when I played, 2003, and that was kind of still the style. Like you rolled up the sweatpants, and it was like the idea was like, look, I'm not wearing shin guards, right? So it's kind of like expose those shins, let everyone know that. Although I got the sweatpants on, nothing under here. Now they tuck them into the socks. That's kind of like the
that was my thing. That was my thing this season. A little tuck in the socks.
I like that. I like that. I think it looks good. Yeah. But the sweatpants, I love it and he would wear really. If you look at photos of him, he has like, I don't know, like he's probably like maybe he's a large or an XL. He's got like quadruple XL sweatpants on. Like
they were massive.
They're super big. Cool. What other goalies did you like watching?
I was actually like thinking about this. Like growing up, I watched. It wasn't necessarily like one goalie that I always watched. It was just like in general, like watching college lacrosse and taking little bits and pieces from every single goalie. I think through high school, I was always looking in college and seeing like, oh, like which goalie plays like me, and trying to like compare my game to theirs a little bit. And I kind of got to a point where I was just looking at little things from every single goalie, which I think is like a super big tip to like that I would provide for like younger goalies is like, don't mimic your game off of anyone else's, but try and develop your own game, taking little pieces from every single goalie. I think there's so much to learn from the different goalies in college with their play styles. There's so many different play styles. But I think it's just like trying to find little things that you would take from each goalie. And I think that's kind of what I did in high school and growing up is just taking little things from every single goalie and trying to build my game up the best it can be while also just, admiring them and trying to be like them one day and on the big stage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like 100% my philosophy. And like one of the reasons that I do this podcast and I started Lax Goalie Rat is just because I love watching goalies and just like taking little things. And it could be like the smallest of things. Like it was like, I love the way this guy does a face dodge in the open field. Like that, I'm going to incorporate that into my game. Or like, oh, look how he did this crease play when he had someone on him. And it was kind of, just like really specific scenarios that you can, incorporate into your own game and learn from and always be a sponge. That's kind of what I tell the young goalies out there.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah. All right. Any like specific lessons or things come to mind? Like, oh, this is a part of my game. I took this from so-and-so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, over the past 4 years, a lot of the drills that I've been doing have remained the same. And a lot of that's due to the coaching staff that we have here. Recently, like Coach Kubikowski, he's now a coach at Manhattan, but he worked specifically with the goalies over the past 2 years. And, he did a lot of stuff at Goaliesmith. So a lot of the drills that he was doing were variations of that with us. And, a lot of it was competition based. I think Army in itself is interesting that we have 6 goalies, which is very unique for a college team. And but he basically developed a bunch of these drills that were all competition based, getting us, in there quick, getting shots, getting reps quick, but still rotating in and out. So you're not just standing around the whole time. So a lot of the drills that he kind of formulated around us is all competition based and brought a lot more enjoyment to the game itself.
Someone turned the lights off on you, huh?
Yeah, I know. I think they're motion activated. So I think, I'd say I'd get up and turn around, but
no, we're good. I can still see you. I can still see you. So 6 goalies. Well, before we get to Army, I'd love to kind of hear about going chronologically, just, your recruiting process.
Yeah.
And, when you first envisioned playing lacrosse at the D1 level and then the story of, committing to West Point.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was getting recruited, it was still of the time of, there wasn't really a hard set deadline of, hey, you can only get talked to after June 1st of your junior day and whatever. So, people were committing 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year. So lacrosse was definitely something that I knew I wanted to play in college. And, with everyone committing around, freshman year, sophomore year, there's definitely added pressure to everyone who wasn't committed. But it's definitely something that I really wanted to do. And, it's a sophomore year. I wouldn't say I was necessarily heavily recruited. Sophomore year is kind of when I first started receiving interest from schools. Sacred Heart, Fairfield, Boston, Mercer, looked at Maryland for a little bit. And then that was kind of the introduction to my recruiting process. And, then West Point obviously reached out to my coach and kind of got me in contact with them. And it was never really something that I actually considered. I've had grandparents in the military, and that was about as far as like my military background had gone. It was never something that I was like, hey, I want to go to West Point. I want to do this. But, the coaching staff here is great. And, just talking to them a couple of times, getting on visits here, meeting the guys on the team and going through all that, it just felt like an obvious decision for me, and what I wanted to do. And it was obviously a great opportunity in terms of the future and as well as on the lacrosse field.
Awesome. Awesome. What you mentioned, like, it was an obvious fit. It was an obvious fit. What, if there's a goalie going through it, like, what would you recommend that they be on the lookout for to know that it's an obvious fit?
I think, the first thing that I would always tell people is, develop that relationship with the coaches and the players on the team currently. Don't look at it so much as a lacrosse school, but more of a school that's best going to fit your interest. And one, I think the people on the team and the coaching, they make that a easy decision for you, which is why it's so easy for me. But I also think, look at what the school provides. Don't just say, okay, this is a great lacrosse school. Like, look at what your academic interests are and like what you want to do, and, see if that actually fits with your interest, in terms of what you want to do in the future. I think anyone at the stage always is looking at top schools and say, hey, I want to go here. I want to go here. I want to play lacrosse there. But like, look more into it and look at the academic side of it as well as the people side of it. I think as much as a lacrosse experience can change your college experience over the next 4 years, I think the people is actually what makes it the most valuable and rewarding experience. So I think definitely look at developing those relationships with the coaches, see that they have your interest in mind, as well as look at the guys on the team and see if that's what you want to be a part of in that culture.
Yeah. And how did you develop that relationship with the guys on the team? Was it through those visits, or did you like then keep in contact with them outside, outside of those visits, and then before you made your decision?
Yeah. So a little bit was here at West Point. I'm not sure exactly how they do it at every school, but they would take a bunch of the recruits and put them on recruiting trips. There'd be 10 or so of us, and we'd stay in contact throughout that. And I think also I was grateful that someone from my high school came here, and then I was able to talk through him and see how the experience has treated him, see how the guys on the team are. And I knew him for a while, and I was able to kind of get that experience of like the culture and being a part of the team without even being a part of the team yet. So I think really important to try and make those connections of the guys on the team as well as the guys that are also being recruited. I think having those relationships, even if you guys don't end up at the same school, of people in your class, even if they're at different schools, of having that relationship and being able to talk about, different schools you're looking at, like what you're liking, what you're not liking. I think that can also provide some comfort in the school that you pick. So just kind of having relationships both with the recruits that are being recruited to the school as well as the guys on the team, and just trying to get as much of the team-like experience without being a part of the team yet.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. That's awesome. So then you mentioned West Point reached out, and you sort of like hadn't considered it, but attending West Point is not like attending a normal university. I mean, it's free to attend, but you're signing up for a service commitment. How did that factor into your decision?
It didn't necessarily waver me as much as I thought it would, in terms of, hey, like, that's not what I want to necessarily do. It's always something that I think I talked a lot about with my dad and my grandfather. My grandfather served in the Army, and my dad was actually offered an opportunity to go to West Point, and he didn't. So kind of as soon as he found out I was getting recruited, he talked to me a lot about just the regrets that he had of not attending West Point. So there's a little bit extra motivation there, and just experiencing what he thinks he missed out on. It's definitely one of those opportunities that you're presented with, and it's something that you just don't want to pass up. Obviously, serving was never really something that crossed my mind, but it's something that once I found out more about the process at West Point, kind of what they develop you into being, and the opportunities that it's going to present for you in the future is just, next to none. And I think I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I'm very grateful that I decided to come here, because I was definitely more younger and immature when I made that decision.
Sure.
But I'm very grateful that I did, and I'm very happy for the experience that I've had here.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. My dad served in the Army and played lacrosse. Not like at West Point, but like
Yeah.
literally when he was like in the Army. I told this story on the podcast with AJ. You know AJ Barreto?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I do.
So I told the story. I'll tell you again real quick. So he was stationed at Fort Ord, like in Monterey, California, doing training, right? And out walks First Lieutenant Steve Wood, and he was an All-American at West Point and like just graduated, right? So it's his first job, and he's like at these soldiers, and he's like, "Has anybody played lacrosse?" And my dad looks around, and like no one's raising their hand, right? And he grew up like a little bit in Canada, and so he's like, "Well, I've seen lacrosse," and so he's like raises his hand, and he's like, years later, he's like, "That was the best decision I ever made in my life, because I got to play lacrosse with these officers." And I don't know like how it is now, but apparently like the officers aren't supposed to like associate or like hang out, with I don't know, the normal Army guys, right? And so he's like, I'm hanging out with these officers, they're like the best friends of mine, and he was athletic, and he just kind of picked it up and learned how to play. So that was like how awesome. We had sticks in the garage, and that was kind of like how I got introduced to lacrosse.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really cool.
All right, so then now you get to West Point, and you guys got 6 goalies on the roster, and that can be really like, you as a coach, you got to have, like you said, you got to have a really good plan to make sure that not all these goalies are standing around, that they're all motivated. How was that for you personally, being a part of a 6 goalie unit?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough in terms of trying to do everything that you want to do. I think Coach Alberisi, he brings in, he brought in 6 great goalies this year, and based off last season, this season was a complete competition between every single one of us. And so the fall was very competitive. Quick reps, quick in and out, trying just to make the most of your opportunities. Luckily we had a bigger team than most. About 62 guys on our team, and so we're splitting the fields into 2-3 times at most. So I mean, you're having 2 goalies each cage, and just getting in there, getting as much as you can. And there's also so many specialized or many like set away moments that we are just working on just our own game. And working with the coaches in the past, they've always developed drills that get us involved, and you're not really standing around too much. A little bit more frustrating for some of the goalies. It can be in the season when you're doing some scouting reps and stuff like that. But our coaching staff does a great job of just sticking on the fact that like, hey, you got to do whatever you can to help your team win. And a lot of guys are taking a lot of scout reps from like our number 1 guys, and changing their play styles a little bit to try and mimic what other goalies are doing on other teams. So every single guy on our team is just dedicated and committed to helping our team win, and whatever that takes, it's what they're going to do. So definitely grateful for the guys in the locker room, especially the 6 goalies that I was able to play this season with.
Yeah, that's awesome. 62 guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
It's a small little army there, right?
Yeah, it's just about.
I love it. Is there no limit on the maximum number of people you could have on your team?
So due to, I think, military schools specifically, one, with the recruiting process, they're allowed to actually contact people tomorrow on July 1st, which other schools aren't. So I think they get like a month advance in that. They're not completely capped out by how many people they can bring in, because 1, it's not on scholarship.
Right.
And then, so they're kind of able to bring in more kids, and then all of it's really based on locker room size. Our coaches, they do a bunch of breakdown of the numbers and all that. And we have a great locker room, that can just about hold, 62 kids on our team. So they do a good job with the numbers and trying to figure out all of that. But yeah, just military schools in general aren't really restricted to the same NCAA regulations that other schools are in terms of size. So it's nice. I mean, cool. A lot of guys, but it's definitely awesome.
Yeah. And talk to me about, because the service academies definitely attract a certain like type of individual, right? Talk to me about that. Talk to your teammates. Like, is there sort of a common thread, sort of a common, I don't know, attitude or way you would describe the cultural values that maybe they have that you might not see as consistently at other schools?
Yeah, I mean, hard to speak about other schools, but specifically for us, there is a very strong sense of commitment to the guys that come in on our team. Every single one of them has already basically committed to serve 5 years, when they get here. And they're already goal oriented in terms of that aspect. So it's super easy to get everyone on the same page and committed to the same goals that we have on the lacrosse team. Everyone is obviously committed to being physically fit, committed to being a part of the lacrosse team, being strong in the academic classroom. There's all these things that people have already committed to before even arriving at school. So it helps basically bring our team closer and allow us to achieve our goals easier because we are already so alike in that sense. So it makes our team a lot closer than others.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it makes 100% sense. Talk to me about this season. Wow, what a run, huh? Your final season coming into it. I just love to get your thoughts as a whole on this season.
I mean, yeah, definitely a remarkable experience. Just the season as a whole. I mean, going into the season last year, we lost about 19 seniors, a very impactful group of guys on and off the field. And we kind of started off brand new in the fall. A lot of new guys stepping up, a lot of freshmen that were going to be asked to take on bigger roles than they would have anywhere else. And just kind of establishing that underdog mentality from the very beginning. Allowing us to basically just work hard, work in the dark and show what we can in the spring. And then the keep the change mindset is how we refer to it, is our team motto, but that's what kind of drove us this whole season. And just being that underdog in the beginning of the season, overlooked by a lot of people, and just, putting our heads down and going to work.
Wait, what does keep the change mean? I don't get it.
Okay. So yeah, keep the change. It's our team motto this year. So in January, one of our team captains, Jacob Morin, he coined the phrase keep the change. So beginning of the season, preseason polls and all that stuff came out, and we were like unranked, not even considered in terms of any of the polls. And our coaching staff at the beginning of the fall, they said, if a man gives you $5, you give him $7 of work. So this whole mindset of the fall of over delivering, just always consistently over delivering everything that you do. And it kind of carried over into what the keep the change turned into, overlooked by a lot of people. No one's really considering us as a contender. No one thinks that we're going to win the Patriot League championship. It's just that mindset of, hey, keep the change. We're gonna keep delivering every single week. We're gonna keep getting higher rankings. We're gonna keep improving, and we don't want to hear any of it, because if you didn't believe in us at the beginning of the season, then just don't believe in us now. So just that little chip on our shoulder that we needed, and something that we coined, or Jacob coined at the beginning of the season, and something that we just embodied throughout the whole season.
I love it. Keep the change. Keep the change.
Oh,
we got keep the change t-shirts, or?
Well, we do. We had a bunch of keep the change t-shirts made throughout this whole season. So.
All right. I love it. That's awesome. What a great season. Patriot League champs, knocking off Maryland in the first round, losing to awesome Penn State team in the quarterfinals. Any particular games that come to mind for you that were like really standout game? I want to tell you actually another quick story. So I like to do the save edits, right? And I don't do a lot of them myself these days. I have some guys on my team that do it, but I was sitting down to do one, and I'm sitting down to do Knox Dent versus Chase Erlin, who I sponsor from Cornell. And like in the intro, they show talking about Knox Dent, and they show your injury in this save. It's like the most intense save I've ever seen in my life. So like you go back behind the goal and boom, the knee goes out, right? And you just kind of like see yourself, you're sitting there for like not 5 seconds, like 3 seconds in pain. Cause like, obviously you just had but then you're like, crap, I got to defend the goal. And you get up and like hobble back into the goal and make a diving save. And I was literally like doing the save edit. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Talk to me about that play if you could.
Yeah. Wow. Definitely a moment that I just, to be honest, just blacked out.
Yeah.
After the injury, I've torn my ACL, both meniscus before, and I felt what that was like. So, as soon as I turned and I felt that little pop, I knew something was off. And then after that, I kind of had to watch the clip a couple times because to be completely honest, I just kind of blacked out after. I remember just getting up and I was like, hey, let's get it, get back in there. Obviously didn't get the ball, so no one's in the goal. It's definitely an opportunity for them to score. And it was just, hey, like get up, like let's see what I can do. And luckily I was able to get back in there just in time. But it was definitely one of those moments that's a bittersweet. For me personally, I thought my season was completely over when that happened. So I mean, just honestly at that point, I was just trying to leave it all on the field at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so talk to me about that. So that was the Loyola game. And then you were back 3 weeks later.
Yes. So the Loyola games when I messed up my knee, and then I missed the Bucknell game and the Colgate game after, and Cornell was the first game I was back. Those 2 weeks just getting MRIs, kind of seeing exactly what happened. And then obviously working with the training staff, I was able to, get back on and be able to play. I had to get some shots that helped a little bit, and just put a brace back on and wore a brace for the rest of the season. And just my training staff was awesome and allowing me to get back out there. And I would do it any day over again just to have that season. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And you mentioned before we hit record that now you just recently had the surgery to kind of clean it up and reattach things, or just clean up.
Yeah, so I tore my lateral meniscus, and then I also tore some cartilage in my knee in March. And so 3 days ago, got surgery. They completely repaired the meniscus, and they also took some cartilage from some other parts of my knee and put it in where it was torn. So got that whole operation done, and looking at a good 4 to 5 month recovery. But that's about it right now.
Yeah. When you think back to this season, are there particular games where, like, for you guys as a team, like, oh man, that was a big turning point for us?
Yeah. It's hard to say that there was a big turning point for us. I think the back half of the season was super important for us because, I think it's the whole season in general. It's just every game that went on is we were getting better in some asset of our team. From the first game on, is every single game we were making improvements. And I think towards the back half, especially going into the Patriot League tournament, we were definitely super thrilled of winning the Patriot League tournament in terms of beating Loyola and then getting matched up against Maryland in the first round. And I think the confidence within our room and the locker room and then the team as well was super high. We knew we could compete with anyone. And there never was really a turning point that I was like, hey, like everything is really clicking now. It was more of just a strong sense of belief in our team throughout the whole season of knowing what we're capable of and then knowing what we can accomplish. And that belief just carried us throughout the whole season of just constantly over delivering every single week and getting better. So
yeah, makes sense. When we think about the mental game, you just mentioned like your team having a strong sense of belief in the team. When we think about the mental game, like how do you have a strong sense of belief in your own personal goalie game?
Yeah, definitely something that I've never fully been completely confident in myself in. It's definitely something that in the first couple of years of college, I think, specifically freshman year, definitely struggled with confidence in terms of playing lacrosse. I will say I was afforded the opportunity, and other guys on our team, we have a great head sports psychologist here, and Dr. Zinzer, and someone that I worked with religiously freshman and sophomore year and junior year, and even this year as well, of just constantly going to him and just finding out more things about the mental side of things. And I think goalie specifically being one of those positions that's very, there's an intense amount of pressure on you. And, the mental aspect I think is just as important as the physical. And I really figured that out after my freshman year, seeing the improvements that I made in my game, just, seeing him developing a little bit more confidence in myself. It had wonders for my game, and definitely, even this season, talking to him and just, constantly getting better in terms of lacrosse related, physically, mentally as well. Just the impact that he had on me in terms of my mental game completely transformed my game. And I would recommend anyone to, seeking mental help and trying to develop confidence in your own game, talking to sports psychologists. I think, obviously there's people that are very confident in themselves and in their skills, which is great. I think everyone needs to be. And there's also points where you always have that little self-doubt about yourself, in terms of your skill. So, that's, I think, one of the things that's definitely overlooked in the lacrosse community, or just in sports in general, is just the mental side of the game. And I think it's one of those things that, I pride myself in how strong that was for me. And it definitely showed, for sure.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the themes that came out of last week's Lacrosse Goalie Summit 10, because there was two mental health therapists / sports psychologists. And just it's cool. And it's like it can help you so much. And so, there's a lot of goalies that might think that working with someone like that's not cool, and couldn't be further from the truth. So definitely do that. What, Dr. Zinzer? Is that
Dr. Zinzer?
Zinzer.
He was
okay.
He was the head sports, or he's in charge of the whole sports psychology. And there's a CEP program, so Center of Enhanced Performance at West Point. He was in charge of all of that. He retired. He retired at the end of last year, but he's still working with clients and stuff like that. So he has a book. It's actually called The Confident Mind. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Definitely just a great book. I mean, he's worked with Eli Manning, a bunch of these famous hockey guys. Like, he's worked with a lot of the big names, and he's definitely heading the charge in that department for sure.
Sweet. Maybe I can get him on the show. Now that he's retired, he's got a lot of time to come on. Come talk to us goalies, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
I love it. What else specifically did he teach you? I'd love to talk about maybe just one other lesson that, where I was having this problem, or like this thing that he said was really impactful in my performance.
Yeah, it would actually be, so this past season, very beginning of it, before I had started any college game in my career, sat down and talked with him for a good bit. And he basically told me, a game is just like a TV show. There could be 100 different episodes of one single game. So this mindset of, basically what he says is like, there's going to be 40 episodes that you're going to experience in a game. 40 times maybe the offense has the ball and they're coming down on you to shoot, score, whatever. You make a save one episode, and then you also maybe let one in one episode. But it's also this, like, the mindset of there's so many different episodes throughout a game, and there's so much that you can't control. And it's just that, like, hey, like, let's get the next one. And it was just like the idea of, there's so many opportunities that you're going to have in one game, and there's no reason to put so much pressure on the past opportunity. Just getting out of that. Specifically for me, it was like, oh, I just got scored on. It's just like, hey, like, the next play mentality, was just something that we'd always hit on. He said that there's a good thing, like, or a good trick for any goalie or any one person to do is, have like a term that just basically is like a switch for your mind. And for me, it was, forget how we phrase it completely, but I was always like, anytime the ball would cross over the midfield, I would say, like, time's up. It's like, that was like my 2 words to myself that I would just say, and it would completely just like snap my head, like, hey, let's focus on this given moment. There's no reason to recollect on what happened maybe the 3 quarters before, what's going to happen after. It's just, hey, like, that just kind of snapped me into that mindset of, hey, let's focus on now. And there's only so much you can do in 40 episodes. There's no reason to put so much pressure on yourself. So, just trying to forget about the past things. And I think it's easier said than done, obviously, but, I think that's one trick that I always use is just saying that little quick thing to myself and getting myself to snap back into the present and forget about the past was huge.
Yeah. I love that. Love that so much. Yeah. That was another big takeaway of mine, is that, the mental game is like the physical game in the sense that it takes a lot of reps to get good at it. right? And I think that in the physical game, that's very easy to understand. It's like, all right, well, I don't expect to take 5 shots and be like, all right, now like I know how to play goalie, like I can save all the shots. You got to take like 10,000 shots, right? You don't expect to go to the gym, do 1 set of bench press and be like, cool, like this is, man, I'm strong. No, like, right? It's consistent work. But with the mental game, sometimes people think like, oh, I tried that thing that you recommended and it didn't work. Right. Okay. That's 1 rep. Now do that over and over again. So you really have to be consistent in that. And you might not be good at it at first, right? But with reps, it comes and you get mentally strong.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's things that work for me that are not going to work for other people. And it's one of those things of just like trying to find what's best for you in that aspect. And I think there's so many different little tricks, techniques, little things here and there that can change the mental game for you. And it's definitely not universal for everyone, but there's definitely things that everyone can pick up on and try and find, confidence in that.
Love it. And that control what you can control thing is such a big lesson from sports psychologists too. I never studied any sports psychology, but I feel like I've talked to so many. I feel like I got a lot of their knowledge in my head. And because you hear that, control what you can control from every single sports psychologist. And a lot of times, like, goalies will say, well, what about when my defender says something really bad to me after I give up a goal? We're talking about youth lacrosse. And it always comes back to like, well, guess what? Like, control what you can control, right? Like, you can't control how other people are going to react. Can't control that, but you can definitely control how you react and how you think about the situation. So I think that's great advice. And every time I hear that from a sports psych, it reminds me like, control what you can control, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, cool. I'm gonna have to read that book then. What's let me I guess if I look it up, what was the name of the book?
The Confident Mind.
Yeah, The Confident Mind. Did you read it?
Yes, I did. By Dr. Nate Zenzer.
Yeah.
It is a definitely must read, and just the way he puts things is definitely an easier way to understand a lot about the mental aspect of it. And it's something I would definitely recommend.
Okay, cool. How does if there's a young goalie who's struggling with their confidence in the goal, what would you tell them besides reading that book?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just, it's one thing to feel confident in terms of your skills and one thing, but I would just say, try and find an intense amount of passion for the game. Sometimes you're playing goalie and maybe you're really hard on yourself or whatever. Like, try maybe playing a different position. Like at a youth age, I think one thing is like you may be trying to force yourself to play one position and really get good at it, but also like you started off playing lacrosse, probably not in that position. Definitely make sure that that's the position for you. And I think the passion for that position is what's going to drive that confidence and that desire to get better. So definitely make sure that that's the position for you. Try different things, talk to your coaches, and then if at the end of the day you want to get back in the goal, and you're going to get back in the goal, and you're going to have a little bit more passion for that position and trying to get better. And the confidence aspect of it is, just trying to, like you said earlier, with like the different types of drills, the tennis balls, maybe adding a little extra padding, just trying to develop a little bit more confidence in terms of the physical aspect of it. And then obviously the mental aspect of it. Definitely not an easy position, a lot of pressure on you. And, just trying to remove as much of that pressure as you can and just, like I said, like control what you can control. At a youth age, there's so much more than lacrosse. So it's not the end of the world if you get scored on. And if you do, worry about the next play. There's no need to weigh all of it on the last one. So, there's a bunch of different things that I could say. And it's just,
it's such a complex topic, right? I mean, and it even gets more complex in the sense that, like, I think the best lacrosse goalies have an irrational sense of confidence, right? Like maybe if you're a youth goalie, like you've done nothing to earn it. Right? But you walk out there with this attitude of like, I can save anything. I'm the best goalie that ever exists. And then you end up like playing a lot better. And then when it comes time to like practice, all of a sudden, like, all of a sudden the mentality sort of flips and it's like, oh man, I need to get way better. I need to get way better.
Yeah.
But then boom, you have this switch. So yeah, it's a topic that's super deep, super intense. That's why doctors write books about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Cool. So you mentioned you're still in the West Point area, sort of did the surgery. Are you working with the team still coaching, or what are your plans right now, Knox?
Yeah. So for the next 6 or 7 months until January, I'm going to be with the lacrosse team, working with the coaches, helping out with a lot of the operations side of it. So as of now, I have commissioned as an officer in the military. So right now I'm a second lieutenant in the U.S. military, and I'll be doing some stuff around West Point, helping with them in terms of that. But the main thing that I'll be doing is attached to the lacrosse team, helping out with coaches as much as I can, and obviously being around at practices and being able to be as much as an impact on the team as I can without having to play. I think it's going to be. I'm super excited for one because I'm able to be around the sport a little bit longer, and it's definitely something that I want to continue doing. In what regards and what aspect that is, I'm not completely sure with the military and everything. So, lacrosse is something that has done so much for me, and it's something that I want to stay around, my whole life. So I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be here and be around the team a little bit longer. And, what's next for me in the lacrosse community, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to be doing something.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck, both in the recovery and your service. And again, thank you very much for your service. Wish you best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are you going to be working with the goalies?
I mean, yeah, I hope so. I hope coach lets me work with them a little bit.
Yeah.
We haven't really, I got in here. So 3 days ago, got the surgery and, that was like kind of my first couple of days back here. So definitely got some conversations to have with the coaches in terms of what my role will be in the fall. But, goalies, I have such a good relationship with the other goalies on the team, and, I'm more than happy to work with them and try and help in any way that I can. I'm super excited that I'm even getting the opportunity to be here. So definitely going to try and weasel my way into coaching them a little bit and helping as much as I can, but we'll see.
Yeah. Love it. And who knows, you got the 1 year of eligibility still left, right? So, hey,
it's about 2 years of eligibility, but
you got 2 years of eligibility left.
Yep. Yeah. 2 years left. So who knows?
So we could have you do your service. You could have like a 28-year-old Knox Dent going back for a grad program, lighten up the college scoreboards, huh?
That would definitely be an experience that I would be willing to look into doing for sure.
All right.
So we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows, right? And you were telling me that the service academies, they can't do the NIL deals?
No.
Oh,
so,
man.
Service academies are not allowed to do that. It's something to do with being employees of the government. So it's just in terms of the pay and everything, we are being paid by the government to go to school here. So we are technically employees of the government, and that kind of just contradicts with the NIL and everything. But I mean, we're given a lot of opportunities here as well. So it's something that's just not talked about too much, but it's just one of those things that, hey, it is what it is, and move on. Yeah,
I hear you. Well, when I heard that, it was a bummer, because I was like, if there's anyone I would love to sponsor as a goalie, be a member of the service academies. But yeah, you're right. It's like pros and cons, right? And so maybe you don't get that opportunity, but you do have a lot of other great opportunities as a result of going there.
Yeah, most definitely.
Cool. What did you play with stick wise? You STX Eclipse 2 guy?
Oh yeah, I've been an STX Eclipse 2 guy since I was growing up. I was using the Eclipses when I was younger. High school, I'd mess around. I love lacrosse in high school, so I had hundreds of different types of sticks, and I'd use a couple here and there. But Eclipse was something that I always would stick by and use. And once I got to college, I was kind of more in the mindset of like, hey, let's find something that works and let's stick with it for the next 4 years. And it was always the same thing, same pocket, just about 2 U's, 2 nylons, a little deep low pocket, and then just the easiest shaft that I could find that was metal, and just like the lightest that I could find, and everything just kind of stuck with me throughout the past 4 years, and same setup, everything.
And do you string your own sticks?
Yep. Yeah, nice. I do. Yeah. So been stringing them since I started playing, I think it was the first goalie stick I got was strung by one of the stores that I got it at, like just a breakaway lacrosse store and whatnot. And can't say it was too great, but after I got that stick, I definitely learned how to string and watched a bunch of YouTube videos, all that, really got into it and tried to develop something that would work for me, and found that and just stuck with it. So
awesome. The Eclipse 3 drops July 4th. Did you know that?
I'd heard about the Eclipse 3 coming out. I was actually looking in the season. I was like, hey, like talking to my equipment managers, like, hey, did you hear about anything like this? Or, like, can you get this? And I didn't know there was a set date. So that's good to hear that it's coming out. I'm gonna have to try and get my hands on it.
Yeah. I've got a couple coming my way through my contacts, but yeah, I can't I want to get it like weeks in advance. That's the kind of level I want to be working at, Knox, but we're not there yet. So they give it to me like the day it launches. But hey,
better than most.
Better than most, right? But supposedly, awesome. Like, I mean, the two things that like you want out of a goalie head, like the main thing is the stiffness, so that like if you get any top part of the cross on the ball, it's not like folding back, and that's a save. So apparently they've done a lot of work there. And then the lightness, and then the throat. A lot of goalies like to grip the throat. Do you put your hand on the plastic?
I'm definitely a grip the throat guy, which is, I definitely like the Eclipse 2 compared to the Eclipse, like the standard Eclipse 1, because that was just like a rounded edge and it wasn't really completely comfortable. But the Eclipse 2 definitely had more of a modified grip that was a little bit more comfortable to hold. And I think the stiffness being one thing that has always continuously improved from the Eclipse. I think the first one being, not say poor, but not great. And then the second, the Eclipse 2, a little better in that stiffness category. But it's just one of those things that, you use the head long enough, you want it to remain stiff. And I think that's awesome that they're going to be focusing on that for the Eclipse 3 as well.
There you go. Knox, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story. I feel like we hit it all. Anything you feel like we missed?
No, I appreciate what you're doing, and I love seeing all the goalies you've been talking to, and just the whole Lax Goalie Rat, everything. I think it's really cool for the sport and especially the position. So I appreciate what you've done too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I should mention, so I have a bunch of interns, a bunch of high school and junior high kids are working for Lax Goalie Rat this summer.
Okay.
And a few of them said, I put like in the little team roster, like, who's your favorite goalie? 2 folks, Knox Dent. So let's go.
That's awesome.
Let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I love hearing that. That's great.
Yeah.
Glad that I could make an impact on some other people. So that's great.
Yeah. Not only, so one, here, let me give him a shout out here, because he went full service academy, I think. Because I was here it is right here. Oh, no. Never mind. He's more on the Air Force side. Aiden put a bunch of Air Force goalies. So all right.
That's
Aiden.
all good.
Yeah, all good. But we do got Knox Dent in there twice. So anyway.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Knox, if you had to leave the goalies out there with the final piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say have fun. The position, there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Just have as much fun as you can, see how good you can be, and just enjoy the sport. I think there's too many times that I can look back and being like, oh, like I put so much pressure on myself to perform here, where I was like, that was such a great opportunity. Why didn't I just embrace the opportunity for what I had? I think that's easier said than done, but I think, have fun. Don't be so hard on yourself. Recruiting circuit, that can get very, very hard and provide a lot of pressure to yourself. So just, enjoy what you're doing it with, and just try and have as much fun as possible. And I think that's the thing that I'd leave everyone with in terms of whoever's playing lacrosse is just, enjoy it. You only get to play for so long, so just make the most out of it.
Beauty. Knox, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Damon.